Welcome back to another MOTOBOB video, and today we're going to be looking at 7 exciting new rumours for bikes that could be announced in 2023. Now, the first ever BMW motorcycle, the R32, was presented to the public in September 1923, so it doesn't take a heck of a lot of brainpower to figure out that this year will be their 100th anniversary. Now, they've already begun the celebrations with a pair of special editions, firstly the R9T 100 years and also the R18, both of which get a fancy chrome paint job and plenty of bolt-on accessories. But it looks as though BMW have something more in the works, potentially something more substantial, at least if this teaser on Instagram is anything to go by. I reckon it could be the new updated version of their super popular R1250 GS, because you see there's a bit of a bulge in the cover up here which suggests it'll have a high mounted exhaust, and it sort of lines up with the current GS pretty well. On top of that, a new GS has been spotted out testing, and we've got hold of the spy shots here, and although it's certainly not quite production ready, it doesn't look a million miles off. From what we can see in these pictures, it looks as though there'll be an all-new engine, which is rumoured to be a little bigger in capacity and potentially fully liquid-cooled. There's also a new aluminium frame, which might help to keep the weight down a little. And of course, it looks pretty different from a styling perspective, especially the stacked LED headlights, which replace the signature asymmetrical design of the current bike. So what better way to celebrate 100 years of the Boxer Twin than a massive update like this to the most iconic boxer-powered bike ever made. Next up, we've got Royal Enfield spotted out testing a new single-cylinder powered bike that's been labelled the SCRAM 450, and it'd mark a significant change in their lineup, with both their singles and twins at the moment all being entirely air and oil cooled, whereas this bike, as you can tell from the radiator at the front and the lack of cooling fins, would be liquid cooled. Finally, an Enfield that might have a little bit of go in it. Personally, I do like the parallel twins, and they've got just enough power to make them fun to ride on the roads, but the Himalayan and the new little 350s in the Meteor and the Hunter, they're just a little bit low on punch for my taste for anything apart from town riding. Hopefully, an engine like this would allow them to build something a bit more revvy and lively. Otherwise, it looks like business as usual for Enfield, with a slightly retro design and fairly simple hardware, but it should be cost effective, and that's always been their emphasis, and it does really work. They sell loads of bikes year in, year out. The only potential barrier to success for this one is that it looks like an area of the market that's booming in terms of new bikes at the moment. Triumph, for example, are working on a baby Bonneville Scrambler, which does look remarkably similar to this bike. Harley seem to have something in the works too, and there's also the recently announced Honda CL500. You see, a lot of these sorts of bikes are built to target the Asian market, which is potentially huge business in terms of sales volumes, but as a secondary benefit, some will go on sale in Europe and the US, and the result is more choice, especially for beginners or anyone looking for something easy to manage. And so for the punter, 2023 could be a good year if you're looking for an affordable mid-capacity retro. Now, just this week, we've had news that Triumph are planning to launch a new Aragon Rally special edition of their Tiger 900 Adventure bike, with Australian vehicle certification records revealing that the name has been submitted. Presumably, the idea is to celebrate their success in the Baja de Aragon Rally in Spain last year, with former World Enduro champ Ivan Cervantes winning the trail class and placing an impressive 11th overall when you consider that he was up against some proper dedicated rally bikes. So what can we expect from this limited edition? Well, almost certainly some upgraded suspension and probably some more resilient hardware like the sump guard and handguards, but also hopefully that pop-in special paint job that they did for it, which I think looks absolutely brilliant. The Tiger 900 paint jobs have always been relatively subdued, so this would be a nice option if you wanted something with that more garish rally vibe. Now, the luminous yellow, you may recognize that from the Moto 2 limited edition of the new Street Triple, and that's because they're calling it Triumph Racing Yellow, and it will be their signature color for competition bikes or limited editions from now on. Now, I had to put this one in here because the rumors have been going for ages and ages, but hopefully 2023 is the year that it actually happens. It's the Yamaha R9, which again is a name that they've filed in legal documents on a number of occasions, and so hopefully they're not just covering their ass on copyrights and actually have a bike in the works. I think this is just such an exciting prospect because the inline triple that powers their 900cc bikes like the MT-09 and Tracer 9 and XSR 900 is really good. In my opinion, it's one of the best engines currently on the market for its usable mid-range and plenty of top end and a decent soundtrack, and it's just so fun and satisfying to ride. So why not shove it in a sports bike? Surely it would be epic. The only reason they might not have done so up until now is that sports bikes have dwindled in popularity over the past decade or two to the point where they're not really worth making, whilst nakeds and adventure bikes have both boomed massively. But that said, Yamaha did release the R7 a couple of years back now, so perhaps they are willing to buck that trend, especially if it's based upon an existing platform, so it's relatively affordable to produce, and then it doesn't matter so much if it doesn't sell in huge volumes. The R7 is a brilliant sports bike for the road, the MT-09 is an absolute hoot to ride, an amazing value for money, so a mashup of the two should be excellent. Now, this approach of taking a platform and then spinning it out into several different models to save on R&D is super common now. All the manufacturers do it, and especially in the more affordable areas of the market where keeping the price as competitive as possible is essential. So naturally, there's the expectation that the new 750 parallel twin that Honda announced in 2022 will give birth to a number of new bikes beyond the Hornet and Transalp that they've already added to the lineup. One of those applications could well be a retro, as is the case for Yamaha's XSR 700 or the Kawasaki Z650 RS. And to that effect, there have been a couple of pretty nice looking renders from MOTOBOB in Japan. Firstly, of a scrambler variant that's similar to the CL500 that Honda launched already, and then a more regular Bonneville style retro called the GB750. Now, this engine isn't really like a long-stroke, torquey twin that you'll find in the other retros like the Bonnevilles and the Royal Enfield twins. It's more revvy and peaky, and having ridden it on the press launch for the Hornet, I thought it was brilliant and really suited to that style of modern naked bike. I'm not so sure it feels so authentic in a bike like this, but if you want modern performance and just some old-school styling on the top of it, rather than retro character through and through the bike, then these could be two bikes to keep your eyes peeled for. On a more technical note, Piaggio recently filed some designs for a variable valve timing system, which of course could have applications for their most sporting brand, Aprilia. Variable valve timing basically means that you can vary the opening and closing of the valves in relation to the ignition timing, and the result is more top-end power while still preserving the efficiency and torquiness in the low revs. From these designs, it looks as though Aprilia are working on a passive system that would be legal for use in MotoGP, and as is often the case, this could eventually trickle down to their road bikes like the RS V4. That said, at 217 horsepower peak, it doesn't really need much more pep for your average rider, but I'm still looking forward to seeing what they come up with. Now, last up, we've got the KTM RC990, a parallel twin-powered sports bike that's based upon the same platform as their middleweight, naked, and adventure bikes, and it's already been spotted out testing in these spy shots. In fact, we've already made a full video about it with all the details, and I've linked to it on the screen right now in case you haven't seen it already, so give it a watch and let me know what you think of it down in the comments. And if you're new here and you want to see all of the latest motorcycle news right here on YouTube, then hit subscribe and I'll catch you in the next video.